Hi, I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to share with you these reflections on the Gospel of the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, there's a wonderful story told about the famous Notre Dame football coach, Lou Holtz, who was at a breakfast prior to the football game with his team and the opposite team, and it was a prayer breakfast, and the other chaplain was upset about the fact that the sense that God is with Notre Dame and God cheers for Notre Dame and things like that. And he said in his remarks, God is not cheering for either team. God does not care who wins or who loses. And then Lou Holtz came up to the microphone afterwards and said, the chaplain is right. God does not care who wins or who loses, but his mother Mary does. I love that. But there's a truth in there that, we can't very well expect God to be up in heaven saying, am I going to listen to Jim Forson when he asks me to pray for the Dodgers or make sure the Dodgers win? We know that God is not looking at our bullpen and saying, oh boy, those guys need some help. No. So then when we pray, what do we pray for? Do we just limit ourselves just to the big things? We pray whenever there's a war or there's famine or there's terrible suffering, or on a personal level when somebody is struggling with, a divorce or addiction or finding a job or things like that. Is that what is the focus of our prayer? What do we pray for? And for that matter too, how do we pray? Why do we pray? Well, Jesus in the gospel today deals with those questions through a parable that he tells about this widow who is not getting justice from this corrupt judge. She wants him to rule in her favor because she deserves justice and she's not getting it, and she is just relentless in pestering this judge. And in the story, the judge finally says, I fear neither God nor man. I could care less about the whole crowd, but this widow is driving me crazy. And she's going to do me harm. I'm going to drive me to an early grave. I'm just going to give her what she wants so she'll leave me alone. And Jesus holds up that example as an example of prayer and saying, let your prayer be just as persistent as that widow. Now, he's not comparing God to the corrupt judge by any means, but he is saying that if a corrupt judge will give persistent prayer a response, imagine God, who loves all, how he will respond. So Jesus' advice, guidance to us is, be persistent in your prayer. But now, what does that exactly mean? Do we go to God and say over and over and over, please, 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 like a nagging child? Is that what prayer is all about? You may have heard the joke, and if you have, laugh anyway. But the joke about this woman who's in a grocery market shopping line, and the woman in front of her has a young daughter with her, and the little girl is just all over the place. And she is saying, oh, mommy, 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 I want a Barbie. Come on, I have a Barbie, a Barbie. And the mother says, patience, Maria. And then she spies candy. Mommy, I want some candy. Can I have some candy? Mama, I have to have some candy. Patience, Maria. Oh, I want some potato chips. Can I have some potato chips? Patience, Maria. And the other woman who is looking in on all this says to the woman, if that had been my kid, I'd probably smacked him. I really admire you for how calm you can be with your daughter, Maria. And the woman looks at her and says, I'm Maria. Patience, Maria. But is that what Jesus is calling us to? Like a nagging child to bother God until he gets, I can't take this anymore. No, not at all. We can all intuit the sense that this is not the way prayer works. This is not what prayer is for. Well then, what is it for? And how does prayer work, especially persistent prayer? Well, prayer is not me giving God a bill of goods and expecting him to answer them, fulfill them. No. And we know that prayer is not like something that rubs the bottle of a genie and out comes God to do our will. No. And we know that prayer is not me trying to give God a sales pitch, a good idea that I've got. And so that God is up in heaven and he hears me and he goes, boy, that Jim Forson, he's got a good idea. I was going to do something else, but I think I'm going to do it his way now. No, obviously not. Prayer is not to change God's mind. Prayer cannot change God's mind. God does not change. That's not to say that everything is already planned out. Everything is already God's will. No, because there are things in this world that God does not will. God does not will the destruction through war or pestilence or horrifying cancer. God doesn't will any of those things. So, do we pray? Yes, absolutely. But do we pray to change God? I think that's the key right there. Our prayer is not meant to change God at all. Our prayer is meant to change me. My prayer to God changes me. And it must be persistent prayer. It is, imagine like a relationship. No relationship is really a deep, meaningful one where it's so casual. I say hello to somebody once a week. Okay, fine, I'm friendly. Or once a month or more. Okay, wave at them, hi, how are you doing? But really, meaningful, deep, important, transformative? No, just a casual relationship. If our prayer is like that, then our relationship with God is nothing more than a casual one. Jesus is saying it cannot be this way. It has to be persistent. It has to be continuous. Because in any relationship that is continuous and persistent, people are continuously sharing with each other and talking to each other and entering more deeply into each other's lives. And that whole process is transformative. And so it is with us and God. My constant prayer, my persistent prayer, is the means by which I enter more deeply into the life of God. And by doing so, he enters more deeply into mine. And I become transformed. The example I've used before, and I'll just be very brief with this, is when I went into the hospital with my heart condition, I prayed that it not be serious. It was. I prayed that the surgery be successful. It wasn't. I prayed the aftermath would resolve the problem. It didn't. I prayed it would just go away. It's chronic. None of the things I wanted to receive did I receive. But does that mean my prayers weren't answered? No. Because as I prayed more and more, and as I had so many people surrounding me, praying for me, without even realizing it, I was entering more deeply into the heart of God, and he into mine. And that made me so grateful. It brought me so much peace. And so I pray for you, and I pray that you pray continuously, constantly, persistently, so that your prayer will lead you deeper into the heart of God and God deeper into your heart. And so that by doing so, you will become this presence of God for all whom you meet, and they will meet God in you.